Hey there, beautiful brown girl family. Welcome to another episode of Brown Girl Boss. I see you all getting in here. Y'all be so ready for the conversations that we be about to have, and it makes my heart happy. So thank you, y'all. If I show y'all know I'm in Mexico, right? Well, some of y'all might not know I'm in Mexico. I'm in Mexico and it is hot. So Bianca said it's the glow for me. Y'all, I was over here fanning like child. I am glowing for real. Okay. But we got it down to a manageable glow at this point. Okay. But that's not what we here for. Y'all getting me distracted. Hey, beautifuls, get in here. Get in here. Make sure you introduce yourself in the comments that you let us know. I always say us. Let me know where you are watching from, and make some connections in the comments with people that are in your area. Go ahead and tag your friends, your family members, fellow folks that need to hear some really good advice. Okay. You also want to make sure you go ahead and get yourself something to write with because I promise you, y'all, like tonight about to be so dope, and I am so excited about it. So, also, if this is your very first time hanging out with me on Brown Girl Boss, let me know that in the comments as well because I love to celebrate our first timers and just really get excited when we have new people that join our BBG community. So, let me do some shout outs right quick. I see you all coming in here. Hey, Nika, she's in here, and we have Irma is here as well as Robin. Hope your day was blessed as well. Toya is here. We also have Jazzy from South Cali. We have Candace. Oh, I love how you spell your name, Candace. That's cute. She is in LA. We have Eugenia is here from Vegas. We have Latanya is also over in Cali. Jazzy is a first timer, so shout out to you. Yes, Crystal is a first timer. Latanya is a first timer. Robin is a first. Hey, y'all. I love when we have first timers. It makes me so excited. Constance is also a first timer from Delaware. We have Daphne is here from Seattle. Y'all are getting in here, and I'm just too excited. I be trying to contain it, y'all, because you're gonna see. You're gonna see in a minute. So let me go ahead and do like our official introduction. I be getting all beside myself, and people be like, "What are we watching, girl?" So let me tell you. Welcome to BBG TV Brown Girl Boss. This is our virtual platform that allows us to connect with other like-minded women who are on a mission to live their very best lives. We come to you weekly with programming that will challenge and inspire you and get the conversation going to connect with other beautiful brown girls. So my name is Kimberland, and I come to you from Playa del Carmen, Mexico. On tonight's show, we'll be chatting with brand strategist Briaan Bonner. Listen, her energy, y'all, if y'all have never met Briaan, like physically or virtually, like her energy is so dope, right? So I really want you all to make sure you get something to write with, okay? Or you're gonna have to make sure you go back and watch the replay because I already know sis be popping them off like this, okay? So we gotta catch like all of the things because she quit with it, okay? So definitely want to make sure that you tag people. Go ahead and share the broadcast on your page so that people will know what you're doing because I feel like everybody can benefit from this regardless of where you are in life. We all need a little bit of coaching, okay? So let me see if we have any others that have joined us. I see Barbara is here from Detroit. She's over in BA hanging out with us. And then we have Pretty from Boston. Alicia, another first timer, is here from Bellevue. Oh my gosh, I get so excited about the first and is here. This is her first time as well. And is Nika's first time from Atlanta. Y'all the best. Y'all the best out here. Okay, so I want to tell y'all about Brianna. I don't want to labor the time because yeah, this hour is gonna fly by so quickly. So the first thing that I want you to do before we get started is I want you to tell me like where you are as far as your work life if you will. So, are you in a corporate space, kind of climbing that corporate ladder? I want you to drop corporate ladder in the comments. Or are you like a side hustle, honey, right? So you have, your corporate thing that you're doing, but you're actively working that side hustle. Okay, so drop that in the comments. Or have you completely launched into an entrepreneurial space and you are riding this entrepreneurial train? So if you all will drop that into the comments for me, I would really, really appreciate that. Okay, so again, are you like corporate ladder? You are absolutely fine there. That is your space. That's your jam. Type that in the comments, whether you are kind of in side hustle mode. So maybe looking to leave corporate or trying to transition, or are you a entrepreneur? Okay, so drop that into the comments for me while I tell you all about Briaan. So, Brianna spent over a decade building purpose fueled brands as a strategist, as a marketer, creative director, as a designer. She's the founder and CEO of Worthi, with an I, LLC, a strategy and design studio that crafts premium brands for lifestyle, retail, and nonprofit clients. Brianna established herself as a force in her field early on, working with veteran hip hop brand Ruff Ryders. Girl, I'm gonna save that story for another time. Ruff Ryders at the age of 19 and interning with entertainment giant Viacom at the age of 21. She recently launched her first tech startup, Grail, a streaming platform for beauty and self-care content curated for the melanated. With each endeavor, Brianne aims to empower historically undervalued communities to gain the visibility and investment that they deserve. Y'all, she is so dope. Okay. And I want you all to welcome Brianne. Let me get her in here. Hey, beautiful.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction, Kimberlyn. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you, girl. I had to pause at Rough Riders because, girl, that was, listen, 99, honey, that was the
Yes,
anthem that summer. Okay.
yes.
So you had a hand in that.
I had a hand in the later days. I have some fun memories at Rough Riders.
I
Very,
am
very fun
here
times there.
for it. I love it. I love it. Well, I am so glad that you have taken some time out of your schedule to hang out with us. I've been looking forward to this so much. Y'all,
Me
I'm gonna tell
too.
y'all now, if y'all got questions, y'all better drop them in the comments because honey, I got plenty. Okay. So y'all better get y'all questions in there because if not, this is gonna be the Kimberly to Brian. Because girl, okay,
We can do
let me
that.
calm down. Let me calm down. So, Brian, if you will, kind of start us off with telling us how you got into this work. Like, where did this even stem from? What's that story?
Sure. So I would say that as early as maybe junior high school, I had an interest in communications. I knew that I was interested in storytelling at a mass level. I loved writing. I loved all types of creative activities, always been a very creative person, always been a storyteller. I found myself in branding kind of accidentally. It started when I was in college. I went to a liberal arts college. I went to Sarah Lawrence College in New York. So lots of amazing classes there that really helped me become a better critical thinker and really, strengthen me as an intellectual, but not a lot of transferable skills learned
Mm,
necessarily. So I would say probably about my junior year in college, I started to get really thoughtful about how I was going to enter the workforce after I graduated, what my next steps were going to be. And so at that point in time, because my interests were kind of varied across the board. I focused in African American studies, film and television, etc. My interests were
mm,
kind of all over. I wanted to figure out a way to position myself for an opportunity when the time came for me to graduate. So my first step to do that was to design my own personal website. And I, bought my domain name brianbarron.com. I just went and bought
mm,
my name as a website. And then I
mm,
taught myself how to design websites with just drag and drop tools. Wix at the time is what I was using. So I taught
okay.
myself how to create a website thinking if I have some sort of online home where I can tell my story, talk about my interests, etc., then maybe that will be more appealing to employers or wherever I go next, even if it's to graduate school, wherever. I just wanted to create an online home. During that process of teaching myself that, I really fell in love with the process of figuring out how to distill my best traits and skills into one cohesive story. And so
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that for myself. And as I was working on that, other people began to ask me to help them with things like that. I always had an eye for design. So I would design websites, flyers, anything that people needed in terms of a marketing tool. And I started to, charge a little bit of money here and there for it. My peers, classmates, teachers would ask me to do it. So I was like, well, as long as I'm doing it, maybe I'll, turn it into a side hustle while I'm a student. And so, but I fell in love with that process, and that led me to pursue opportunities where I could grow in the field of branding. And that's kind of how I landed there.
Wow. I love that. And especially when you talk about trying to figure out how to bring all of your passions into one space. I
Yeah.
personally have struggled with that. When I introduce myself to people, I'm like, hi, so I'm an actor, I'm an author, I'm a life coach, I'm a talk show host, I'm
Yes.
a vlogger, I'm a podcaster, right? And it's like, what do we do with all of this stuff
Yes.
that we're really trying to figure out how to market that and not seem like we have multiple personalities.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that a lot of people ask me about when they ask about personal branding. They're like, where do I start? I have a lot of different interests. How do I express that to people without the person I'm talking to losing interest or not understanding?
Right.
And one of the things that I had to learn early on was, we're in the habit of telling people what we are, right? Like, this is my title. Like, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
podcaster, I'm a writer, I'm this, I'm that. What we have
Mm-hmm.
to learn is that when you're talking to people, they don't really care about what you are. We want to know what you do and who you do it for. So
Mm.
if you're a podcaster, then what you're doing is building community through dialogue in a digital format. So it's about finding ways to reframe. I see your reaction, Kimberly, like, oh, is that what it is?
That was dope. Look,
That's one example. But basically to
yes.
say, like, for any occupation that you can name, for any title that you can name, find a way to turn that into a more active way of describing what the impact is that you have and what you do. And I got in the practice of figuring out, like, okay, here's all the different tools or media that I use, but at the core, like, why am I doing this? What am I trying
Right.
to accomplish? And that's how you start to determine what your brand is or what your skill set is about, what are you doing all of that for? And that's something that other
Yeah.
people start to understand better as well.
Yeah. So Sab said people want to hear our story, like
Yeah.
people connect through stories. Okay, y'all. So listen, while you're here, I'm a challenge y'all to go ahead on and drop into the comments what you would normally say. And let's see if we can flip that into why we do what we do and what is deeper than that. Because just that small
Absolutely.
tweak, I'm like, how powerful is that? And not just powerful, but like when you go like to networking things or whatever, and it's just like,
Mhm.
it's just
Right.
like this. It's so monotonous, but what a way to stand out in really connecting to that story and the why behind what we're doing.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you the other reason that I think it's important to figure out how to articulate your core purpose and your motivation as opposed to what your title is because
Hmm.
in your personal brand and throughout your life, you'll evolve. Your career will evolve. What you
Right.
decide to do and what tools you decide to use or what skill sets you build, those things should be growing and evolving. You don't ever want to pigeonhole yourself into a certain corner because you've
Mm.
developed a brand around this one thing that you do as opposed to what your purpose or passion is. And so
Mm.
if you give people, this is my motivation, this is what drives me, this is my purpose, then for one, it motivates them to ask some additional questions. Oh, really? Well, how do you do that? Then you can talk in detail about your projects and things like that. But number
Right.
two, it leaves space for your brand to grow and evolve over time so you're not pigeonholed.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving this so freaking much. Like, I'm definitely gonna have to go back and watch this replay because
Yes,
I'm like thinking to myself how many times I've introduced myself by a title because I really don't know what else to say.
right.
But that is so powerful. So I heard you just kept mentioning purpose and passion,
Yeah.
and I'm really interested, one, from our community to know what is your purpose and passion community, as you are here sharing with us. But I'd like for you to kind of share with me maybe what that means,
Yeah.
in your work at a foundational level, because sometimes I hear these words used interchangeably? And like, what does that even really mean? And how does one identify it if they don't quite know?
Absolutely. So you're right that they are often used interchangeably. I'll start kind of by talking about passion. Um, One of the questions that I like to ask as a prompt for clients that are trying to figure out what their personal brand is or what their positioning is are what are the problems that you would like to solve in the world? Like what are the causes that come to mind or the problems that exist that you would love to be able to come up with a solution to? And I think that
Mm-hmm.
when you start there are people who might care about a lot of different things, have a lot of different things that they are interested in, but when you start asking, like, what if there was one or two problems in the world that you could solve, what would they
Mm-hmm.
be? And that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be super specific. It can be, I
Mm-hmm.
wish that people were kinder to each other. It could be something that's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more abstract in that way. But once you identify what the problem is that you wish you could solve, then that kind of helps you hone in on where you should be focusing your personal impact. From there, that's passion, right? Like what
Mm-hmm.
stirs you at night. But purpose is when you take that passion and you combine it with your best skill sets. Like where are you most effective at making a difference? Because it's one thing
Mm-hmm.
to care about something, it's one thing to wish you
Mm-hmm.
could solve a problem. It's another to be able to say, well, I'm really good at X, Y, and Z, and maybe I can
Mm-hmm.
use these aspects of myself to contribute to that solution. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that intersection between what you care about and what you're good at. And that's where I think purpose comes into play. Purpose is about showing up and making an impact and doing something actively. So that's why I always remind people that passion alone is not enough reason to
Not enough.
pursue a particular.
Yeah.
So if you're pursuing an endeavor, whatever that may be, whether you're starting a business or you have a nonprofit or you have a side hustle, whatever it is, or you want to, have a certain career trajectory, it has to be motivated by where you naturally perform best or where you're willing to practice performing best. Oftentimes, people are passionate about something, they place themselves in a leadership position of an endeavor that doesn't align with their core competencies. And
Right.
so that's a quick way to get burnt out. It's a quick way to, quite frankly, fail. So you
Mm.
want to make sure that when you're figuring out what your purpose is, it aligns with what you're naturally good at as well as what you want to solve.
I love this so much. So I had mentioned to you when we were prepping for the show that I just started a new brand, and it's called Minding My Black Ass Business. And a lot of it was birthed out of my passion for disrupting white supremacy culture and really disrupting racism in educational spaces. Is kind of how it started, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then it kind of just evolved into this, I just want to be free, like as a black woman, and I want other people to be able to experience that as well. But the part that I didn't realize that I did, that you're making me realize, is about that purpose part of how do I show up or where am I most effective, right? So I
Yes.
remember like last year when we had all of the protests and things, and I remember saying to people, like, my place is not on the front lines of a
Right.
protest. Like, that's not my lane. That's not where I'm most effective. This
Hmm.
is where I'm most effective, where I'm able to utilize my voice. I'm able to engage people in conversation. I
Yes.
didn't really connect that of being the intersection of my purpose and passion. Like, I don't know what I thought it was, but I think that's very powerful to think about what that looks like, because again it gives a deeper why to why we're doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great example that you give about, in times of social unrest, like if you want to be active in making a difference, how do you find where you fit in? A lot of that thinking is what motivated my approach to branding. When I was in college, a lot of my academic background is in, the history of social movements in the United States, African American studies, things like this. And so when I was learning about those historical movements, you learn about all the different types of leadership that existed in those movements, all the
Right.
ways there were to be an activist at the time, and why all of those methods of activism mattered when it ultimately came to true revolution or making a difference. It's no different any industry or field that you're in. So people have to be comfortable recognizing this is where I'm strong. I'm not as strong in this area. I don't have to be as strong in that area.
Mm-hmm,
I can really
mm-hmm,
focus on where I can best deliver impact. And that's best for everybody involved. I think it's best for the individual because if you can really lean into the things that feel natural to you, then it's easier to sustain. And it's
mm-hmm.
also better for the whatever the solution is that they're contributing to or the impact that they're trying to make, because we need somebody at every different, corner of the movement. So
Yes.
to be comfortable playing their position and really own that.
Yes, I love that so much. So Candace wants to volunteer as tribute to talk about some of the passions
Yeah.
that she has to see if we can kind of practice in real time what that might look like. So she said that she's an entrepreneur, she's a voiceover artist, a songwriter, singer, TV commercial actress, and CEO of her own music
Ooh,
publishing company.
ooh, that's a lot.
Okay, Candace out here getting it in, sis.
Okay, yes. But what I see in here, there's a lot of public facing communications. There's a lot. Okay, so we've got some entertainment in the mix here. So I would really think about, why is entertainment the vehicle that you use? And in these different kind of titles that you hold, is there any overlap in who your audience is or the type of content that you're creating or singing? So I would say think about whatever those overlapping themes are, and then why entertainment is your vehicle for your purpose. And as you start
Mm,
to answer those questions, you can figure out what is that like 1 to 2 sentence statement that really captures like why this, because this is a lot. Voiceover artist, songwriter, singer, you're using your voice in a lot of these things, so you can find
mm-hmm.
a really creative or clever way to talk about why your voice is impactful in all
Yeah.
these different media. So, and that's without knowing, the details,
Right, girl.
but these are some of the questions that I think help get at like what is that really compelling definition of what your brand is.
Oh my gosh, I love this so much, y'all. I hope y'all taking notes because let me tell you. Okay, so let's back up a little bit.
Yes.
And let's talk about when we are. So I'm going to use me again as an example. So I came up with this catchy phrase, right? I was like, mind about black ass business. Like that's all I want to do, right?
Yes.
But as I've been developing, I have noticed that there was probably some foundational work that I should have done prior to, right? So and I'm talking things as simple as systems. Like I
Yes.
can't stand checking emails. I just hate them with everything in my life.
Hmm.
Or thinking about scheduling and calendaring, or
Hmm.
even what types of things do I really want to show up for, and what types of things do I not want to really show up for. So, if you
Absolutely.
could kind of talk to us about some of the things that we should consider as we are thinking about our brand as far as entrepreneurship or just our personal brand, period, and
Hmm.
how we make sure we're allocating our energy appropriately. That was a long question, Brian. I'm
No, I got
sorry.
you.
Okay. My girl, it just kept getting longer. Okay.
This is a great question, and it's a question that actually steered me in the direction of brand strategy. I really started out focusing on design when I was working with my first clients, years ago. What pushed me in the direction of brand strategy, in tandem with creative direction and design, was that I noticed that I was working with a lot of first time founders, new entrepreneurs, new business owners, people who were transitioning away from a corporate space to doing their own thing, et cetera. So they're really at the ground level. They don't have a team yet, don't
Right.
necessarily know what this business is going to look like for themselves yet. And I realized that without a solid foundation, without the fundamental understanding of how your business is going to operate and what its core values and mission are, design can only take you so far. And so one of the things that I've always kind of prided myself on is being very strategic, even if it came to setting goals for myself, my personal life. So, and it's funny, I've always documented my plans for myself. And what I just thought of was that I just recently found a Google document from 2014
Mm,
that I had titled Personal Strategic Plan. And so that's something I believe in. So one thing that I want to share with the community that's here today is, before you think about personal branding, if that's something that's on folks' mind, before you think about personal branding, think about your personal strategic plan. I call it a PSP. Now, if you've done strategic planning in an organization or you have an idea of what that is, it's basically an outline of what your goals are, how you're going to measure success, and then what the tactics or actions are that you need to take in order to reach those goals. Many
Mm-hmm.
organizations will do like a 3-year strategic plan, helps them
Mm-hmm.
stay on track with the way that they spend their money, operate, etc. When I was an employee, I was working as a strategist as well. So I was involved in creating strategic plans for the organizations. I decided to create one for myself. And what I do with my personal strategic plans is I try to actually list out, what is it that I want to see for my life in 5 years? How does that
Mm-hmm.
actually look? So
Mm-hmm.
not just like, what's your 5-year plan? Oh, I'd love to, have a house, or I'd love this or that. Like, when you picture it in your mind, what does it look like? Who are you
Mm-hmm.
as a person? What is the quality of life that you're trying to develop? So I would list those things out. And then from there, I would say, okay, well, in order to achieve that, what do I need to do this year? And then in order to achieve my goals for this year, what do I need to do on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and a monthly basis? So for me, the first kind of core part of a strategy is saying, what's this big picture vision that I have? Let's get really real about how that looks. And then what do I need to do on a regular, repeatable basis to get there? I think that's the main thing that catches some people up, is that you have to be able to take action repeatedly and over
Mm-hmm.
time. So a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
know how to set milestones, but it's a 3-year milestone, it's a 5-year milestone. What do you do in between to get there? That's where people get off track a little bit.
Right.
So when probably starting once I got to Seattle after graduate school, I would actually write a personal strategic plan for myself every year at the beginning of the year. Now I actually write my PSP in the fourth quarter of the prior year. So it's October now. I'm working on my PSP for 2022. What is it that I want to accomplish, etc. I would recommend getting started early, because for me now, when I jump into New Year's, I'm not scrambling to figure out,
Right.
what do I want to lose weight? Do I want to buy a house? What, like, I already know. I already know. I write it in October, and I give myself the holiday season to mentally prepare to step into the next year
Mm.
motivated with a plan. So that's kind of how I start with my foundation. The same goes for businesses, etc. Once you know what you need to do to get to your goals, you can start to determine what are the resources that you need, what are the systems that you need, what kind of support do you need. I recommend that people do this. I used to not love to do this part of the work because I'm a creative and I wanted to get straight to picking out
Yes.
colors and, doing photo shoots, right? I wanted to go straight to the fun part. But I learned that, like, you will waste so much time and money if you skip ahead before you've
Yeah.
figured out that foundation. The other thing that I think is important for people to know is that that document, that plan may take some editing. So write it
Mm-hmm.
down, but come back to it. Take step away from it for a few weeks, come back to it, see if it still feels right. Set up a time where once a quarter you revisit that plan and see if you're still on track.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's important is for people to have a lot of patience and rigor with the strategic planning part before they get to putting the brand in the public eye in any way.
Mm. You all in my business. Um, but is there like a template or something? Like Candace is like, what's the social media? Like, what's the website? Like, is there a template that you use? Do you have these resources somewhere that we be able to tap into them?
Thank you for asking. So I'm actually creating a set of resources with templates just like these right now. It hasn't launched yet. It'll be launching at the beginning of next year. All of these templates and the tools that I use, I created, from things that I've read, from experience and organization. So now I'm condensing those into formats that really work well for personal branding, that are easy to follow no matter what your experience. I definitely encourage folks to, head to my worthycreative.com website. Make sure that you're subscribed to the newsletter, because that's where I'll be announcing when these resources are available. For the time being, I focus really on one-on-one client support, brand development and consultations, and design for clients directly. But I'm definitely planning to scale my processes and templates so that, no matter who you are, whether you're able to work with me directly or not, you have access to these things. So what we're taking a look at now, you guys, is my Instagram feed for Worthi Creative. So Worthi is my branding studio. I post a lot of content that is both hard skills and soft skills for people that I refer to as entry level icons. So let's talk about this, because Kimberlyn
Oh,
and I
that's
had a conversation
cute.
about this. So I use the term entry level icons, and what I mean by that is I think that there are a lot of folks who know that they're on to something meaningful. They've got a good idea. Maybe they've got a couple years of experience behind them with their business. You know that you have a solid idea, but you're trying to figure out how to take that to the next level. How do you start to scale that idea? How do you start to, vet different opportunities that may come to you? You're starting to get a lot of attention. How do you manage that attention,
Yes,
etc.? So when I think about an entry level icon, I think about that person who's looking for support. They don't have all the answers yet. They want to be in a safe environment to ask questions, to share space with people who are at that same level, kind of like on the way to the top, but maybe in the
yes.
middle right now. And so I wanted to create resources and ultimately create spaces where people could come together and learn those entry level icon skills.
I love that. It feels it feels empowering, right? It doesn't feel judgmental, because I feel like
Right.
sometimes we get into spaces, and whether it's a conference or being on somebody's Insta live or what have you, and
Yes.
there are so many people that have arrived, and they're
Yes.
at like level whatever, and I'm
Yes.
just in there like church fingers. So where
Right.
do I start though? Like where's like what is the
Exactly.
first thing? So I
Absolutely.
love that you've carved out this space for those of us that need that foundation and really want to launch right,
Yes.
and get things in motion, but we don't also, I will speak for me, I'll use I statements. I don't want to be embarrassed because I don't really know, so like I don't
Right.
want to feel like I'm asking the stupid question in the space.
Exactly. Exactly. That's something that a lot of people feel. And I think especially with social media, as prevalent as it is now, well, we all probably spend a bit more time on it than maybe we used to, considering that we're on the internet quite a bit. You have so much exposure to people who are at different levels in their career, or maybe they're not, and they're just presenting as they are. And so
Hmm.
sometimes that can make people feel pressured to hurry up and make it, right? And I do a lot of reading. I like to read nonfiction books about, different founders that I, respect, or startup advice or things like that. A lot of people don't realize that many of the biggest, most iconic brands take at least 5 years to really
Mm.
figure themselves out and get off the ground. So I think that it can be detrimental if the only thing you have exposure to is people who look like they got it going on and figured out.
Right.
And you might be thinking, you started your business 6 months ago and it's not featured in 14 publications. You're like, well, what am I doing wrong? I don't have
Correct.
10,000 followers yet. What can I do? And it's like, you have to be patient with the journey, because ultimately that positions your business for longevity. And
Mm.
you mentioned in my bio, like I really support people who are historically undervalued. So I'm talking about people who are underrepresented across lots of industries, underrepresented in leadership positions. There's some lower barriers to access for a lot of industries now, which is fantastic. But you also got a lot of people flooding in trying
Yes.
to, really make something out of themselves quickly. And to that,
Hmm.
I say, like, if it's really your purpose and it's really what you're meant to do, and this idea is truly viable, then give it the time that it deserves. One thing that Arlen Hamilton says, and that I always remind myself and keep close to my heart, is if you can't give it 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes.
Mm.
Which is to say that if you're not willing to be patient with this and pour into it and give it the time that it requires to take off properly, then just don't even bother. If you're in a
Wow.
hurry, then maybe that's not the way to go. And
Mm.
so, and I think that that's something that we all have to keep in mind. The beauty of having a process where you document your plans is that when you have those days where you're like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do anymore, or, this is
Hmm.
really tiring. I don't know if I can grow from here. You go back to that strategic plan that you wrote last year, 2, 3 years ago, and see just how far you've come.
Yeah.
Often, the plan that I wrote for myself in 2014, I hadn't looked at that probably since I wrote it. But in that plan, I had written that I wanted to take my then graphic design business and turn it into a full-time creative agency by the time I was 29 years old. Right. So I wrote that when I was, I don't remember what, 25, 24, something like that. I hadn't looked at it, came across it, in my Google folder and saw that I had set that goal. And last year, or no, 2020, when I was 29 years old, I quit my corporate job and became a full
Wow.
time entrepreneur. Didn't
Wow.
even look at the plan, but I was manifesting that because I had
Yes.
written it down. So that's the
Yes.
beauty of having a plan that you write down and then setting that intention in your mind. So I think
Mm.
that's really important for people to remember. Give it patience, give it time.
Wow, that is really powerful. And even thinking about that power of manifestation, just like you said, even if I'm not consistently meditating on it, the way
Yes,
that it still comes into fruition. So imagine if I am like
yes,
actively working on it and looking at it every quarter and assessing like where I am, how
yes.
much greater like that can be. I want to pause just for a moment because, girl, this been a lot. I told y'all, like, I was like, sis be out here dropping them, right? But I do want to pause for a second and just ask you all what is resonating in your spirit right now? Like, what are you feeling? What is happening? Okay.
Yes.
And while they drop that, I want to share what's resonating in my spirit right now. So, I just recently retired from traditional education after a very traumatic year that I realized was God planned to push me out, right? Because
Yes.
I had been kind of hanging on the balance. I was like this, and God was like, "We
Mhm.
doing this or not?" Right?
Yep.
Um, so I jumped out, into this space, and there are times that I really do ask myself, like you just mentioned a moment ago, like, am I doing the right thing? Like, what am I doing really?
Right. Right.
Especially when I pick up and move to Mexico, and it just feels very reactive. But as I'm listening to you speak, I feel affirmed, and I feel this buzz of excitement, right? I am a planner. I do enjoy planning, but I don't necessarily enjoy writing per se.
Sure.
But there's something about the way that you talked about this strategic plan that makes me excited to really see what is being downloaded into my spirit,
Yes.
because sometimes it's so much. Like, it be so much, Brian. Like,
Yeah, I
it
believe
be
it.
so much. Like, just all the stuff, right? So it's almost like I want to get it all out and really look at what this is going to look like with all of the thoughts that I have. And it almost feels exciting
Yeah.
to do it, which is not a word I would have necessarily used before, but
Yes.
it feels really, really exciting. Candace says she feels understood
Yes.
as you're talking. Robin says she feels like she's on the right track.
Awesome.
Lorna says she feels motivated, right? Toya
Yes.
says she
Me
resonates
too.
with what I was saying. So I just wanted to pause for that moment because I'm almost like getting goosebumps as you're speaking of we have some really, really big dreams
Yes.
inside of us. And to have a pathway in front of
Mhm.
us to really be able to birth that
Yeah.
feels exciting. But then to Sean's point here, a little bit of nervousness. Um,
Totally natural. Totally natural. I thank you everybody for sharing and for being so engaged here. I just wanted to pause and say that. But I think you should feel excited. That's how this should feel. And so when I'm working with clients or even just doing like planning for myself, that's why I believe in starting with that big picture vision and saying, like, picture yourself there. Because
yeah,
the road there, is for one going to be unpredictable. So even if you have a sound plan, you may have to pivot along the way. Other interests may come about on the way, but it for me what makes it exciting is feeling like I have the agency and the power to actually make real what I dream of.
Yeah.
I'm very much a visionary, head in the clouds, dreamer kind of person. And when I envision something, I can see every detail of it. I know
Mhm.
exactly what I want that to look like. But when I started to write out plans and then actually live some experience and realize that I actually was making these things happen, I felt so powerful. And that made me say, I'm truly an active designer of my life. And
Yes.
I'm not just leaving things to chance and seeing what happens. I'm setting myself up for it, an experience that I want to have. And that's a beautiful thing. The other thing that I
Mhm.
think is key to note that, what your testimony was making me think of, Kimberlyn, is like when it comes time for you to make one of those big life transitions, it tends, for me at least, I tend to have to be pushed in that direction. Like
Girl.
when I decided to leave my job and actually pursue entrepreneurship, I'd been thinking about entrepreneurship for a while. I knew that ultimately that's where I wanted to be. But I always came up with a reason to just like stay with the job for a little longer.
Yes.
Like this going well though. Like you just got a promotion, you just got another raise. Like, what if you do this here first, And it wasn't until I got to a point where my spirit was just being called so strongly to switch it up. I couldn't deny it anymore. I was in a
Yeah.
good place in my job. I think a lot of people think that, you make a pivot like that because you're so dissatisfied with where you currently
Mhm.
are. That
Mhm.
wasn't my testimony. I was okay.
Mhm.
I was comfortable, but I wasn't moving forward where I felt like I needed to be. So when that time came, it was a lot of very quick decisions that at the end of the year, I sold my house, quit the job, and did a lot of things all at once, And I wasn't sure exactly where I was going to land. I was just like, if I don't move now, I might not move, and I can't
Yeah.
can't risk that. And so that feeling, that experience is different for everybody, but I think you have to trust your gut. Like if you feel
Mm.
like there's a window of opportunity to make a big difference in your life, jump through that window then. Figure it out on the
Mm.
other side. Like, and you will
Mm.
figure it out, but you have to go when you feel like you need to go.
I love that. Sharon has another question. She said, "Was it your spirit calling you, or the discomfort of making the decision that caused you to move?"
I think it was a lot of things at once. Definitely felt very spiritual for me. And ultimately, when I looked at the timing and like what I had written in my plan, I realized that that was a lot of it. I had manifested this timing for this decision.
Right. Right.
So that was definitely a big part of it. But it was also that I was getting opportunities in my from my employer at the time that were what I wanted. But as I was getting them, I realized like, I'm doing all of this work for somebody else's dream. I'm happy here. I like it. I believe in this thing that I'm working on. But if I can do all of this for somebody else's dream, surely I can do it for mine. And it was that I see you resonating with this, Kimberly.
Yes.
I know a lot of people experience that. And I think that it took me saying, okay, so why haven't I made the leap? And when I asked myself that question, I realized that my main barrier was fear, was just fear of like, but I have this salary coming in. I've got these bills to pay. Like, do I have what it takes to, recreate that when I'm my own boss? And ultimately the answer was like, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to try, you know,
Mm.
and um and after that, after I left and after I was kind of moving on, I realized it was a day by day thing for the first few months, figuring out like what this new normal looks like for me. How do I run this business? How do I make
Mhm.
sure that income is coming in regularly? Like that was a day by day learning process. But one of the things that really, made that easier for me was drawing on my community and my network and finding people who are at a similar place or a few steps ahead of me and saying,
Mhm.
do you mind setting up coffee with me? I have some questions for you. Or,
Mm.
can we Zoom on Thursday nights and just kind of bounce ideas off of each other? You do need to call on community in those moments when you don't have it all figured out. But ultimately, you figure it out, but you can only do so through experience. So if
Yeah.
you're afraid to take the leap, you will not get where you're trying to be.
Girl, if I could, like, if we were in person, I probably been done threw something at you, cause
You know
you
I need to come to
are
Mexico and visit.
you are so on it right now. Like, oh my gosh, all of what you just said, is it's that, like Oh man, oh man, oh man. Okay,
It's a
focus,
journey.
focus. I know. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have. Okay, so let me kind of ask this. So I'm gonna speak into existence that we are going to do our strategic plan. We are going to find success, right?
Yes.
In that, I want you to talk to us about knowing where to allocate our energy. Because
Mhm.
right now, for instance, like my inbox is flooded all the time. Like, hey, do you, will you partner with me here and brand ambassador for this and blah, 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 or speak
Yes.
here or speak there. And it becomes so overwhelming sometimes to know what to say yes to and what not to. So,
Yes.
what advice do you have for us of how to make the decision of where to allocate our energy?
Yeah, I think the first step with that is like as you get in the groove of working on whatever endeavor you're working on, really be self observant and figure out what tasks on your task list feel like they fatigue you, feel like
Mm,
you kind of delay yourself in getting around to them. You never really like pull them off at 100%. You just do them because you have to do them. And then figure out what tasks really energize you, that you love to do, that you gravitate toward.
mm-hmm,
Put
mm-hmm.
those things onto separate lists and figure those things out. And then on this list of the things that fatigue you, look at that and say, how much of this really requires me personally versus, being a task that I can actually outsource, right? Does it really require me to do it or does it just need to be done, period? And then
Right.
once you determine that, like a part of where it gets tricky for a lot of people, myself included, is if you don't have, the resources or the income yet to hire somebody to take on those roles, then how do you get those things fulfilled? That's where I do things like, let me figure out how to actually put together an internship program for this endeavor. Is
Mm,
this are these tasks, can these be grouped into a category that an intern in college or high school could do for a few hours a week? What is so observe that list and say, how much time does it take to get this done? What skills does that require? And then figure out who you can outsource that to. So fiverr.com, you can use sites like that, Upwork, Fiverr. You can outsource it to an intern. There may be somebody in your family or in your community that would be willing to help. So this is where we have to get comfortable asking for support. I'm not a person that's super comfortable asking for support, so let's talk about it, right? Because I know a lot of people can probably relate to that. I'm a very self-sufficient person. I'm used to doing everything when it comes to my businesses. I just like to
yeah.
have hands in everything, but I also know that I'm going to quickly outgrow that. I already have. So I would say this: when you're asking for support, whether you're outsourcing it to a contractor, an intern, or whoever else, be very crystal clear about what the roles and responsibilities are, how much time that requires, and what, if anything, you're able to compensate. So you might have a little bit of budget that you can put toward a contractor. If you don't
Mm,
have that budget and you need to rely on a family or friend or an intern, then is there something else of value that you can offer that's not money? Can you offer
mm,
some sort of mentorship in exchange? Can you
mm-hmm,
or a service
mm-hmm.
that you're good at that you can offer in exchange? So you have value. Whether you got money in the bank or not, you have something of value that you can contribute to get what you need in exchange. So I think we just have to take the time to sit down and say, what can I offer and what do I need? And then make it a priority to get that covered and figure it out.
Ooh, honey, let me tell you something. I'm about to have to listen to this 3, 4 times. If y'all have questions, y'all better drop them on in here because, honey, the time is quickly elapsing. Okay.
Yes.
So if you all have questions, specific questions that you want Brian to answer, please go ahead and drop them. So I do want to know. I know you said that you are working on, for instance, housing different resources and you have your new or not necessarily new but your page Worthy Creative.
Yes.
What else are you working on or how else can we work with you because like
Right.
sis your spirit okay is on it, I'm telling
Thank
you.
you.
So how else can we connect with you to really get the fullness of Brianne?
Absolutely. Thank you for this question. So, first things first, definitely go follow Worthy on everything. I really do aim to add value on that platform. So, I'm posting advice for social media content, how to market yourself, how to tell your story, as well as just how to stay motivated, how to gain confidence. I'm posting to that platform all the time. Subscribe to the newsletter. If you go to worthycreative.com, I also have a blog on there that has a few posts on it about some different topics pertaining to marketing, whether it's for personal branding or for an organization. I specialize in putting kind of complex concepts into plain terms. So it's for anybody at any level of experience with marketing or storytelling. That's kind of who I'm talking to. So you can find resources there. I am going to be starting next year. I'm going to start to plan some events, networking events. Some of them will be virtual, some of them will be live. I'm based in Seattle, Washington, just so folks know. But I do want to start to create opportunities for folks to meet in person in a setting that's constructive, where you can learn a lot, but that's also very casual and down to earth. Like, I would
Mm-hmm.
love for networking to actually feel like a night out with your homegirls instead of like something you have
Yes.
to come to all dressed up, knowing all the answers and strutting your stuff. Like, let's move past that. Let's create a safe space that's fun, where you can come share about yourself and ask questions and get to know folks. So there will be a lot more activations and events coming from Worthy next year. Another thing that I specialize in with Worthy is, I support consumer brands, lifestyle brands, public figures, things like that, but I also support nonprofits. And so I have a division of my brand called Worthy Causes. That's going to be a place where you can learn about cause-based brands or nonprofit organizations that you should know about, that support our community, that you should get in touch with as well. So I would say the best way to get started with me is to follow me on social. If you are interested on working with me one-on-one, I do consulting, individual sessions, as well as full-scale brand design and storytelling. My books are probably going to be closed for the rest of this year, but you're always welcome to inquire with me if you have a project coming up in the future that you'd like to partner with me on as well. And then one other endeavor that I just recently started that Kimberlyn mentioned in my bio, I just launched a tech platform called Grail. It's a streaming platform, an independent streaming platform for beauty, grooming, and self-care tutorials for people of color, specifically Black and Brown folks. So definitely go check out Grail too. The social handle for Grail is Go to Grail. That's GOTOGRAIL. You can check out Go to Grail and start watching the content there. We've got original content, great tutorials featuring minority owned beauty brands and things like that. So a few different ways that you can stay connected with me and check in with me. And I look forward to launching some new stuff to engage you all next year too.
Yes, I am so here for this because just in this short time, I think the amount that you have deposited, and not just the gems as far as do this or do that, but the spiritual connection of, like you said something a moment ago, you were like, you have value, like you, even if
Yes.
you don't have any money in the bank, like you have
Yeah.
value. So when I think about how often we as Black and Brown women in these spaces are devalued,
Yes.
it is so good to hear and know and receive that even if my bank account isn't where I want it to be, or even if I'm in the process of developing this idea, that there is value here.
Yes, absolutely. And you make a good point, Kimberlyn. Like, not only do you have value, but you have a lot of it. So
Yeah.
part of what motivated me to launch Grail, and I hope that y'all will check that out, but part of what motivated me to launch that was that, like, in the beauty and grooming industry specifically, let's just talk about that for a second. Black and Brown consumers spend the most money. We are
Yes.
the top spenders for beauty and personal care. So why is it that we're still fighting to be represented in advertising and among product lines? Like, it just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. It doesn't add up.
Yeah.
The only reason that it is because we have been historically undervalued. And that's why I specifically use that phrase. A lot of
Yeah.
times you hear people talking about being underrepresented, underserved, etc. All of those things are true. But I think people have to recognize that when we have been historically undervalued, we've been taught to feel like we have to work harder in order
Hmm.
to earn the same level of investment or confidence from superiors or whatever it
Right.
may be. So you have to first instill in yourself that no matter what you heard, you are a valuable consumer, individual, contributor to your team, leader, etc. Once you see that in yourself, then you start to negotiate about things differently. Because there are
Right.
plenty of people out there who have not had the budget for something and who have still asked somebody for something.
Mm.
Corporations do it all the time. They'll go to
Mm-hmm.
an influencer who they know they need for their marketing, who's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and be like, we can't afford to pay you, but we can give you some free products.
Right.
All they've done is taken a look at their inventory and seen what they have and said, here's what we can offer. We have to train ourselves to be able to do the same thing. Look in your inventory. What do you have? Something. And if it's not acceptable to everybody, it's not acceptable to everybody. But if you don't come to the table saying, I have value, here's what I need in exchange, what can we negotiate? Then we, especially as Black women, are never going to get where we want to get. So understanding your inherent value, I think, is central to being able to take strides forward.
Ooh, we. I knew this was going to be a banger. However, I didn't realize how much. No, we really, really, really needed this. I think that so many of us are starving for a community and starving for a place and a space to be seen, right? And here at Beautiful Brown Girls, that really is why we're in existence, right? For like minded women to really, when we talk about living our best life, it's more than just this catchphrase. It's really
Right.
like, what does this look like for us to support each other and band together and really win together?
Yes.
And I just so appreciate and resonate with the spirit that you've brought into our space. And I'm gonna go back to that word, that affirmation of who we are and the value that we inherently hold that sometimes we forget. So it's
Absolutely.
like reminding each other, like, no, no, sis, put that crown on, boo. Like,
Yeah.
let's get it right. Because we
Yes.
are worthy and we are valuable. And society will have us out here thinking, we need to do something extra in order to
Absolutely.
be seen. And we are amazing just the way that we are. So I just
Absolutely.
totally appreciate you bringing that into your work intentionally, and really focusing on that. I feel that from a real place.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
so excited that I got the opportunity to speak with everybody that's here tonight, and to express those values. I think it's something that we all have in common, and I really want to stay connected to you all.
Yes, yes. Well, sis, you family now. So um you are officially a part of the Beautiful Brown Girl family. Like, you are not going to be able to get rid of us at all.
Good.
So
Wonderful.
definitely want to make sure that we remain connected. Want to make sure that you all go over to the sites,
Yes.
connect with Worthy Creative, go to Grail, and really, y'all, let's really like win. Like, there's just so much here. So I see Robin said that she's already followed you. So
Yay.
definitely, as soon as we leave here, y'all, we want to make sure that we connect with Briaan, because it sounds like some amazing things are about to be happening
Yes.
next year. So we need to get in the number, right? So we have
Absolutely.
first hand knowledge of all of that. So I do want to, I know we had quite a few first timers with us. So I do want to pause for just a moment and make sure that our first timers know how to connect with us here at Beautiful Brown Girls. We strive to bring this content to you all that is value add, right? It's really important to us. So we want to make sure that you all understand how to do that and what that looks like, what that sounds like, or what have you. So first, I want to let you all know that we are in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign right now. So if you go to Beautiful Brown Girls and search crowdfunding, you can see how to support us. We want to continue to bring content like this to you all for free. So that requires funds, right? So we're in the middle of that, and really, every single penny counts towards our goal. We're also trying to develop our own app. for Beautiful Brown Girls that is free from all of the algorithms and all the things that are trying to hold us down in spaces. So that's what that money is going towards. We also want to make sure that you've connected with us on our Facebook page at Beautiful Brown Girls. We also have a Facebook group, Beautifully Shaded, as well as on Instagram at Beautifully Shaded and on Twitter at Beautiful Brown You. We also have a VIP member space that we have curated, and you can find that space at members.beautifulbrowngirls.com. Here, you'll get discounts on brunches. We started as an in person brunch chapter, so you can find discounts on brunches there. We also have exclusive spaces such as our book club. We have different classes that we offer. And of course, you get firsthand knowledge and first know about all of the other things that we have going on. And then while you're doing all of that, I would love for you to connect with me as well. So you can connect with me at kimberlynjackson.com. I mentioned my new brand, Minding My Black Ass Business. I would love for you all to check that out, as well as follow me at Kimberlyn J on Instagram. So, having said all of that, Briaan, I am going to leave you with the last word. If there was one thing that you could leave with the community, you're like, y'all, if y'all didn't get nothing else, I need you to leave with this. What would that be?
Oh gosh, I said so much. I'm so glad that you all seem to take a lot from it. I would just say this: have a limitless vision for yourself. Have an absolutely limitless vision, and not just a vision, but the belief that you can get there. And then make your PSP, make your personal strategic plan, and start it now so that when you step into 2022, you are well on your way to your limitless vision. Thank you all so much for joining in with us tonight.
Yes, I received that. I am working on mine. I'm telling you, I cannot wait. That is first on my to-do list
Yes,
tomorrow. I am super excited. So thank you again, Brian, for hanging out with us, for
absolutely.
giving us all of these nuggets. I know I am about to go back and watch this replay. So you all, the conversation does not stop here. It continues in the comments. It continues in our members network. Make sure that you share this content, okay? This is priceless, right? So make sure you share and tag people so that they can benefit from this as well. So we will be back here at BBG TV on Monday with another episode of Brown Conversations. Sav and I will be here for all the shenanigans. So would love for you all to tune in then. And until next time, we will see y'all again real soon. Bye, y'all.
Bye.